Thanks so much. Let's go over to Chris.
All right, there's going to be a lot of debate here, political and otherwise, but let's kind of focus in on just what's right and what isn't. Let's bring in Mark Fallon, former official of the Department of Defense Criminal Investigation Task Force. He currently is the director of Club Fed LLC. Mr. Fallon, thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Chris.
You have personal and up-close knowledge of what was done and why, so let me ask you, does this report have it right?
Yeah, absolutely. The report is consistent with the facts as I know them, and this is a committee that has worked for years compiling the data, reviewing the documentary evidence, and so it's quite clear it is finally establishing and illuminating the darkness to the public on things that those of us on the inside have known for years.
The former head of counterterrorism, Bob Grenier, said here yesterday, "We did it. It was not torture. The lawyers told us that. And the government, the politicians who needed to know, knew what we were doing." Is he lying?
Well, I don't know what he was told and who told him. I can tell you the assessment that we made within the Department of Defense at the time was that it was torture. We opposed it. The Criminal Investigation Task Force and those of us in the Department of Defense opposed what was going to occur. These tactics were gravitating to Guantanamo Bay and later went to Abu Ghraib. And so there's a direct linkage to what the CIA did to their detainees, to the abuses that occurred at Abu Ghraib. So clearly these policies less safe. But any legal analysis that I have heard, including my own review, shows me that these tactics, these techniques are illegal.
All right, so let's check each of the boxes. You say it was torture. He says it wasn't, and the lawyers say that. He says only 3 people were waterboarded. Do you believe that?
Well, I don't know how many people were waterboarded, but the abuse was more than waterboarding. There was assaults. I mean, it is just, if you look at the details in that report,
right.
it is just a terrible reflection of our country.
Right, but it just goes to whether or not people are being honest or not. That's why he mentioned the 3, so I ask you about the 3. He said it was not deceptive, that it was open, and the people who needed to know knew. Do you believe that?
No, I don't believe that is the case at all.
So you believe that a former head of CIA counterterrorism came on national television and just lied about what they were doing and how they were doing it?
I didn't hear the interview. I don't know what he said, but I certainly do not believe that officials were told of the extent of this program as I know it.
The extent, is that giving cover to officials, or do you think what they weren't told was material and relevant?
Well, you know, you have to go back to even how the derivative product that they got out of this. I mean, there was no research done into what the effective way to interrogate a detainee was, because we had done this for years. The FBI Joint Terrorism Task Forces, federal agents for years have been interrogating terrorists and eliciting accurate and reliable information. And so when the CIA got this mission, I have no idea how they would have concluded that using techniques that are designed to harden resistance would actually be the type of techniques that you would use to elicit accurate and reliable information.
Mr. Fallon,
it just doesn't make sense.
Mr. Fallon, I have had people from all corners of the military come to me and say, stop acting like this is new. This maybe was one program, but these types of tactics happen all the time by the U.S. and others officially, on the battlefield, on the fly. This happens. Don't treat it like it's new. That's being intellectually dishonest. Do you agree?
Well, I can speak from my own experience, and I was the deputy commander of a task force of about 220 personnel with investigators and interrogators at Guantanamo, Afghanistan, and Iraq. And I can tell you, we did not do this, and we did not observe this.
Why would they have done such horrible things as are detailed in this report, and I will not go into it on morning television, if they didn't think it was working and they didn't think they were supposed to?
I think it was a policy bred from ignorance. The core competency of the CIA is not to do interrogations, and they did have a core of interrogators within the CIA that they did not turn to. The CIA had some very, very good behavioral scientists, some operational psychologists. I know because they were supporting me at the CITF. That's not who they turned to design this program. They went to outside contractors. So I was not at Langley at the time. You'll have to ask them how they actually did an analysis to determine that this was the way to actually do an interrogation. But as an interrogation professional, I don't know any interrogation professional that would concur that that is the way to do an interrogation.
Well, so there's a little bit of mystery to why they would do something that so many people in the know would think wouldn't have worked and would have been sadistic. We're going to have to wait for those answers. But let me ask you, lastly, releasing the report, good idea, bad idea in terms of American safety?
Well, you know, it's a price we continue to pay for torture. I think it's an excellent idea to actually illuminate the darkness. Believe me, other countries know what we've done. The bad guys know what we've done. So the people we were hiding it from was the American public. So I think it's time to illuminate the darkness. We need to come clean with what we did. We need to move forward. We have to determine now how do we best interrogate, detain suspects to protect our national security interest. And the government's done about $40 million research into how to effectively do that. So we have to use science, so we blend the art with science so that we do this more effectively in the future.
They spent $40 million trying to figure it out. They spent hundreds of millions doing it the wrong way. I guess that's what we get for now. Mr. Fallon, thank you very much for giving us some straight talk on this.
You're very welcome.
Allison.